Hi everybody, welcome to Pinky Tech. In today's video, I'm going to tell you about a deal hunt that I did that gave me a little bit of a surprise here. So I was browsing Facebook Marketplace and Letgo and all the things that I normally do looking for computer deals, and I came across this ad. And this ad was advertising a computer, didn't know a whole lot about it, was wanting $250 for it. And it was like 15 minutes from where I lived, so really good deal. I live kind of out from the city, so trying to find deals usually means I have to go for a drive. But I started messaging the guy expecting that it's either gone or the person wouldn't respond. You guys know how these things go if you've ever tried to buy used parts off of, or even just used items in general off of like Facebook Marketplace and Letgo, things like that. So went through and lo and behold, the guy responded back. It was still available. So I was talking with the guy and I was asking him about the computer. He said that there was a problem with it, and that the problem is that occasionally when he would plug in a USB 3 device, or he was saying basically anytime you use the front USB ports on this computer, it would actually turn the computer off. So asked him about the processor, things like that, how much storage was in it. He knew none of that and wasn't interested in going to find it for me, it seemed like. So I went ahead and actually, took a look at the pictures. I could see it was probably an AM3 motherboard, DDR3 RAM. Couldn't really tell how much was in there. I could see that there was a mechanical hard drive. There was no solid state drive. And I was just trying to figure out what all was in there. And then I saw this. That's right, a GTX 1070 in there. So looking at that, GTX 1070s are still selling for about $250. And I knew if that card worked, I would at least make my money back. So we negotiated a price. I got him to come down to $200 and we scheduled a pickup date. And then we went to go get it. So showed up to get the actual computer itself. It was $200. And I'm looking at the computer going, oh my God, what did I just do? So the computer itself is $200, and like I said, if the card works out, I at least make my money back. But I'm looking at it going, oh no, because I can see there is dust all through this thing. So I'm very worried about how well it actually works at this point, because the amount of dust and debris inside this computer was insane, guys. I mean, just, it was nasty. So first things first, as I do whenever I flip a computer, I went ahead and brought it inside and just started stress testing it. And immediately started stress testing it, plugging in USB devices, all that good stuff. And surprisingly, everything was actually working well. I could not get the computer to unplug and shut down or anything like that the buyer had, or that the seller was telling me was happening. The only thing I did see, which this was a Corsair Carbide 540 case, so there should have been plenty of airflow, but I could see the card was running at about 80 degrees Celsius, and the processor was actually getting up to about 45 or 50, which normally I wouldn't really worry about, but it was it turned out to be an FX 6300 processor, so a 6-core processor, but very low TDP, so it doesn't give off a lot of heat. But the cooler on this thing was massive, and I was thinking it should probably be cooling better than what it was. So stress tested it for 4 hours. Everything was good. At that point, I decided, okay, it's time to just take this thing outside and let's clean it up. So as far as the specs go on this machine, it ended up being, like I said, an FX 6300 processor. So it's a 6-core, 3.4 gigahertz processor, I believe. And then 8 gigabytes of DDR3, 1333 megahertz RAM, a 970-A AM3 motherboard, 500 gig Seagate Barracuda 7200 RPM drive, and a GTX 1070 8 gig card. So those were the base specs. There was a couple Corsair 100mm fans in there. There is a NZXT RGB hub type thing to do lights, but it's one strip in the front. It wasn't plugged in right, and so I just kind of disregarded the whole thing, to be honest with you. So, but those were the base specs. So I took it out, started cleaning it up, got out my data vac and all that good stuff. I am going to have a separate video coming up soon, which shows me cleaning the components with not only my data vac, but also using WD-40 contact cleaner, which is something I've been wanting to try out for a while. And, I wasn't going to try it on $300 parts, but on $100 parts, yeah, we can do that and try it. So I took it all apart and started cleaning it. That's when I realized I think I know what his problem was. So inside the case, it was sticky, which is nasty when it's not from your house. But that being said, I saw brown stuff on the capacitors and on the motherboard. There was some on the fans on the CPU cooler, but I didn't see any on the card itself, which was good. And so I started looking at it, and I finally put two and two together. Somebody spilled a drink inside of this computer, and it got down into the components. And I think that was the case and why it was having some issues. Either that or some kind of weird driver issue where it was shutting off the computer. Typically, it would just blue screen and not just shut off, but not seeing it firsthand, I don't know how well the seller was describing the issue there. So I started getting out the rubbing alcohol, the Q-tips, got all of the, and the contact cleaner, got all the coke off of the capacitors, got it off the motherboard, got it off the CPU fan, the CPU heatsink, and all that good stuff. And then, at that point, it was time to put it back together. I decided I wasn't going to put it back in the carbide case. That hardware inside that case is just really, there's no need for it. So I got a Rosewell case and put everything back together. And this is how it works out. Come on, post. Hey! So it's now back up and working. The other thing that I saw that could have been an issue with this computer as well is there was only a 450 watt power supply. With a FX processor and the NZXT thing plugged into it with a bunch of Molex connectors on there, along with the 1070 and a mechanical drive, it might have just been too much when they tried to plug in another device. He said it was just a phone. Once again, I can't verify any of that, but at this point, you know, everything seems to be working fine. As you can see, the computer does boot up, even though it's in a Rosewell case, but it's doing just fine, and it looks like we're all set to go. So that's really it. So really, I got a 1070, which is what I wanted out of this. So we've got this bad boy here. This is actually going into my rig, which you can see back there. I'm finally going to get rid of my PowerColor Red Dragon RX 580 8 gig card. This will be a nice upgrade for my own system. So that means that card is off the table, but taking a look at other prices here. So what I'm planning on doing is actually selling a lot of the components by themselves versus putting together this computer. I do have this one. This is actually an RX 1060 that I have inside this card for video now that I've taken out the 1070. However, I don't think the FX 6300 is powerful enough. As a matter of fact, doing some benchmarking on it, I can see that the processor is pegging out at 100%. The graphics card sitting around 60 or 70. So that would be a bad pairing if I tried to sell that. So what I think I'm going to do is just go ahead and sell off the case. I've currently got it for sale on the marketplace for $75. That case, by the way, is $140 new at this point. But you know, if someone offers me 40, 50 bucks, I'll probably go ahead and take that. So we'll call it 50 bucks is probably a fair price for that case. $100 for the motherboard, CPU, DDR3, and the cooler for that. And so that means $150 between those components, which means I just picked up a GTX 1070 for 50 bucks. And that's without trying to sell the actual power supply that came with the system or the hard drive. So I'm very happy for getting a GTX 1070 for 50 bucks. So I think this is a great deal. Like I said, everything's been working fine. We've stress tested, we've benchmarked, we've done all that. And right now we're sitting pretty. So that's it, guys. A GTX 1070 for 50 bucks. So if you're wondering how you do that, like I said, all you gotta do is find the right deals, find the right components. There's always somebody out there willing to get rid of some of their problems. And if you're willing to take on the task of fixing stuff and cleaning it up, you can make yourself a good bit of money off of it, and you can fund yourself some pretty good upgrades. So I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you can see all my future deals as we get those going, and I will see you guys in the next video.